Hello everybody, and welcome back to another one of our weekly Ascendance of a Bookworm videos, and today we are talking about episode 5, Baptisms and Strange Fevers. Before we get into things though, I do want to remind you all that if you would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Bookworm video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Now before we jump into the video proper, I do want to say Happy Halloween! By the time I am filming this, it's actually the day before, so it's Devil's Night at the time of recording. But I did want to say a quick Happy Halloween to all of you. I know this probably isn't the most Halloween-esque video I've made on the day, but unfortunately, with my schedule being as jam-packed as it is, all I could really do is say Happy Halloween inside of a video. Unfortunately, I couldn't plan anything out. I wanted to do like a deep thoughts type thing on maybe something like another show, or some other different Halloween-themed anime. But unfortunately, I didn't get around to it this year. But hopefully you guys are having an awesome Halloween. Now with that out of the way, I think we can jump into the episode proper. And I want to start by pointing out something that's not necessarily a story note or like a plot point or anything like that. It's actually something that I noticed in terms of the art. And that is that I feel as though, and I could be wrong, but I felt a noticeable improvement in the visual department. I noticed the colors were popped when they needed to and were subdued when they needed to be. I thought the effects for for MAINE'S like magical fever looked better here than they did when we first saw them, even though when we first saw them I thought they looked great there too. I felt like it was done much better here. I don't specifically know why. I think maybe it's that shot of like looking down at MAINE from like the top of the ceiling where like her hair is glowing. I just thought it looked a little bit better here. But overall, I did notice that the whole visuals just felt like they had an overhaul. I noticed there was less issues with eyes looking off into the distance or being crossed or just looking kind of weird, because I feel like the show had a hard time for a little while with its eyes. Now, hopefully that's fixed and that going forward we won't be having that issue, because I really didn't notice it at all here. So I have to give them kudos. I thought the art was really, really good in this one. Now, the art's always been very pretty and fun and bubbly, but here I think that they really, really nailed it. It felt like there was less little imperfections in every shot, and that they actually really honed the art in this week. And I wanted to give them kudos for that. I thought that was really, really impressive. So good work to you. Now, as for what happens in the actual episode itself, well, let's go ahead and dig into it, because honestly, quite a lot happened in this week's episode. I was a little disappointed. I thought the whole baptism ceremony was going to be a bigger deal than it was, and it is. Like, it's a big moment for these characters, but in terms of the narrative, it's more of a footnote. It's important to note that, for the most part, when we're talking about characters like Turi, it's more interesting to me that to see MAINE'S effect on them as characters. And here, even though it's Turi's day, people, and not in a way that like offended Turi, at least not from what I could see, but even though it was Turi's day, people were so baffled by the hair ornament that MAINE made that all they could do was comment about how Turi looked like a princess, and that they all just wanted to stare at the hair ornament that MAINE made. And I don't feel as though we'll get to a point where Turi is like upset with MAINE for stealing the spotlight, but I know that I would be. Everybody was so baffled by like, wow, like MAINE made this? That's impressive. Like, everybody was like, wow, MAINE's so great. And like, to be fair too though, they do comment that Turi is fantastic as well, and everybody's excited for her to become a seamstress and all that, and everybody like thought she looked like a princess and gave her due. So at least there's that. I did, again, as I said, expect the whole baptism ceremony to have a bigger impact on the show than it ended up having. It was, again, like, it was nice to have this moment for Turi, because we all like Turi, obviously. But it didn't really amount to much. Like, Turi is still sort of doing the same thing. It's just now she's a little bit more busy than she used to be. And the same goes for MAINE as well. In the aftermath of Turi getting baptized and working on becoming a seamstress, it ended up meaning that now MAINE has more chores to do around the house, since she's going to have to be picking up half of what Turi used to do. And so that basically just means that we spend more time in the forest, which is fine. But again, I thought the baptism thing was going to have more of an impact. I thought maybe we'd see the priest, although I suppose in last week's PV, when Mine and the High Priest are talking, the High Priest mentions like straight up that like, oh, I didn't actually see you there for the first time, or blah, blah, or something like that, like blah blah blah, like, oh, I wasn't actually there, even though I was expecting like a cameo at least. I was kind of disappointed. I was also disappointed that we didn't get to see the inside of the cathedral. I was really looking forward to that, and we don't see it. Like, I thought maybe we'd follow Turi in so that we could see what it looked like, and alas, it remains a mystery. But again, like I said, it does affect our story in the sense that now Mine has to spend more time in the forest, and more time in the forest means she has more opportunities to make books, and that means more opportunities to hang out with best boy, my new son, Lutz. Lutz and Mine's ongoing adventures, the ongoing mission to finally make a freaking book, is just the sweetest thing on the planet. It is so heartwarming and so charming, and I just love seeing these two like be friends and try to make books. I said this last week, but I would love to see a time skip where we actually follow like Lutz hanging out with Mine, and like Mine like being like this traveling merchant, because they do try to hammer home that like being a merchant is a bad idea. Like Otto basically says like it's really not advised.
There are some who would not deem it wise.
And I was kind of shocked by that, and yet at the same time I kind of wasn't. Like, if you know what being a merchant was like back in a sort of like medieval era, it ain't fun. So, like, I do respect that they wanted to travel, like that Lutz and Mine wanted to travel and see the world. Well, more so Mine just wanted to travel and see libraries, whereas Lutz wanted to travel and see the world and go on a big adventure. And while I respect that, it's very much hinted in this episode that that's probably not going to happen. And I'm okay with it, because again, I understand, but at the same time, I'm like, you're an isekai, and you clearly have magic, like, you clearly have a magic system. I want to see some monsters, because again, it's clearly a fantasy show, as we saw with the whole ice tree thing from a little while ago. So a part of me is just like, just send them on an adventure. I want to see that happen. I want to see these two go on a bizarre adventure. Alas, it doesn't seem as though that's going to happen, but again, I do just enjoy seeing these two hang out. And even if the future, like a time skip does happen and the interactions between Lutz and Mine are less of a crazy adventure and more of just like Lutz helping Mine make books, like becoming her assistant or something like that, I'm not against that either, because honestly, I just want to see these two continue to be friends and continue to grow together, because I really feel as though like their interactions are some of the most charming parts of an already very, very charming show. And even though it's charming, it can be relatively, I don't want to say threatening, but spooky.
It's spooky.
And what do I mean by that? I mean that seeing the whole fever element actually come into play actually kind of gave me a chill, because I was like, oh my goodness, old Mine didn't, like when Mine's former self passed away, as far as we're concerned, and our version of Mine took over, Urano, I believe her name used to be, when she took over, it's hinted that like, oh, she's sick, and Mine passed away and Urano took over and became the new Mine. And I love the whole idea that what made her sick was that she wasn't able to control this magic sickness that she has. Now, I don't know if she's sick because of magic, or the fact that she possesses magic in such a frail state is what ultimately killed her. I don't super know. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But the whole concept of the magic system is really intriguing. I want to see how magic plays a part in this world, since again, it feels not very magical up until the moment that we saw it, and that was such a shock turn from last week, where it turns out that Mine has magic, because I had almost forgotten that the show was is an isekai. It has magic in it, so it was such a shock twist, and every time it comes up here, it genuinely surprises me. However, I do understand where Mine is coming from and why the magic comes out of her sometimes, because honestly, I'm also getting really fed up with the whole like, oh, I tried to make a book and this time it didn't work out. Well, that's okay. I'll recover and I'll do it again. Oh, it didn't work out again. Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I'll recover and I'll do it again. Oh, it didn't work out again. Okay. Well, I'll recover and do it again. And it's like, okay, I can only take so much, and I'm at the point where I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed, because this is try number like 3 or 4 at this point, and I fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, that's on me, and I'm starting to get a little irritated now. I'm starting to feel like mine, and I'm sure some of you folks out there are also starting to feel like mine, and it's why I can't really fault the show, because that does feel like it is the purpose. You're supposed to feel irritated that mine keeps getting, like, denied at every turn, like fate seems to be against her having books for whatever reason. And you're supposed to feel annoyed as far as I'm concerned, because you're supposed to feel like you're in mine's shoes. The only difference is that I'm going to safely assume that most of you don't go into a magical rage when you become irritated. Whereas mine very much does do that, and unfortunately, because her body is frail, she's not able to contain and control that magic, and it's actually making her sick. So I would be curious to see how this unravels. I'm assuming we need to wait till the High Priest comes in to fully explore it, which is part of the reason why I just want the man to show up. Also, because his character design is really handsome, and I just want this guy to show up. So I just want to have the show dive more into the more interesting parts, because again, I am loving how adorable this show is, but I just want to dive deep into the hidden layers of the show, because the show, much like Ogres, it has layers, and I want to kind of peel some of those away. As much as I love the stuff with Lutz and Mine, and I love the stuff with Otto and Mine getting along with the family and all that, the interesting stuff to me is what became of old Mine. Is she still in there somewhere, or is she actually passed on? What's up with the magic? Are we ever going to meet the High Priest? Whew, okay, but on that note, everybody, I have to give this week's episode a decently high rank of A. Again, I do have hiccups with it, I do have issues with it, but I feel like on the whole it is such a good episode that I couldn't give it any less than an A. On that note, everybody, that just about wraps everything up, but before we go, as always, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, and Verdon. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon, and hey, if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then by all means go ahead and check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get for as little as $1 a month, and get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. But on that note, everybody, that's going to be a video, so I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't going to tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.